Hi there. Today we're going to talk about honouring your mother and father. Now, you've probably heard that term before. It's actually one of the 10 Commandments in the Bible. And sometimes people make a lot of deal about it because it comes with a promise. Because it says, honour your mother and father, and you shall live long in the land. Now, why are these two things linked? I want to explore that a little bit and then give you some practical things. Okay, so the first thing is, if children don't honour their parents, then what comes with that is a lack of respect for all authority. And anybody that's ever been in a school for any length of time understands that respect for authority is paramount if the school is going to run. Because once the children stop respecting authority, you've got mayhem. And that's one of the main problems in schools today in Scotland, is lack of respect for authority. Now, once a child no longer respects their parents and they no longer respect any authority, that means their ability to separate right and wrong becomes very problematic. They no longer have a real moral core if they don't respect their mother and father. I'm going to give you a very, very dark example of that. Now, it was an African person that told me this. So please forgive me. I don't have a time scale and I can't give you an exact... Well, actually I can. So this happened in Rhodesia. Now, Rhodesia is a country in Africa that no longer exists. And we think of it now as Zimbabwe. I'm not sure if Zambia was also part of Rhodesia, but certainly Zimbabwe. And if you remember that Mugabe became the leader there and he was a tyrant. Now, at that time, there were terrorists in Rhodesia / Zimbabwe. And let me tell you how these terrorists were trained. They were taken from their homes at a very young age, probably pre-pubescent, and they were trained in the ways of war by terrorists. And their very first assignment was to go back to their hometowns and to kill their fathers. And the terrorists knew that if they did that, these boys, I was going to say young men, but they were really still boys, they would have no home in the villages and towns where they came from. The people there would completely reject them because of what they'd done. And because these young boys then lived with that guilt, they could be easily manipulated, and essentially nothing that they ever did after that was going to be as bad as the killing of their own fathers. So they made for excellent terrorists. Now, thankfully, we don't live in a society where we can envisage that sort of situation. But we do have very dark outcomes from the disrespect of mother and father. And one of them is in the news right now, which is the assisted dying bill. Bill, it's still a bill. So what is that all about? Well, that's actually a very similar ideology because essentially most of the people who are going to be victims of this bill, should it go through, should it become an act, will be the elderly. It will be people who have children. And these children, for whatever reason, have decided it's better for mum and or dad to be dead. I'm going to say I don't see a huge difference between these two scenarios. If we think of the section of society that is being targeted by assisted dying as the most vulnerable section of our society, that is the section of our society that needs the most care, that needs to be protected. And if those people have children who don't honour them, they're going to let them be taken, in both metaphorically and literally, by this bill. It's very dark. Slightly less dark, but essentially same thing, is care homes, where people would rather throw money at a problem and let somebody else take care of it than actually welcome their parents into their own home. We in this country, I think, have been propagandised to the point where we think that's normal. We think that's a good way to care for our elderly parents. But actually, in most of the world, that's an appalling situation. The idea that you wouldn't care for your own parents is an appalling situation. So, ultimately, by not honouring mother and father, that leads to, let's say, dark outcomes. I won't go any further than that. And with such dark outcomes, we have great damage to society as a whole. And therefore, the ability to live long in the land is undermined. I hope that all makes sense. Now, this comes to then you specifically. What can you do? So, this is about how you bring up your children. What kind of children you want to bring up. And the number one characteristic that you want to bring up your child with is to honour you, the parent. You and your partner, the parents. Okay? How do you do this? Really simple. Start with, don't let your child whine at you. Don't let your child speak to you in a disrespectful tone. That's where it begins, just talking. If you have got into the habit in your home where your children whine at you, it's going to be a hard road to stop that. But that is where you have to start. When your children are speaking to you, they look you in the eye. They say please and thank you. These things are really important. When they speak to other adults, they say please and thank you. They don't interrupt you when you're talking to another adult or to another one of your children. They wait. They're patient. I've been in a situation where I've been talking in the classroom to a child, and another child has come and stood in between me and that other child. So what that child is saying is, I am more important than the child that you're already speaking to you. I don't have to respect anyone but myself. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with self-respect. But in a situation like that, Your child should not be doing that. Your child should not be going to the teacher and inserting themselves between the teacher and another child, or worse, the teacher and another adult. And these are children who, generally speaking, are well behaved, well mannered, and certainly towards me are respectful. So, what I'm saying to you is, very simply, don't let your child whine. Don't let your child whine at you. That's very unpleasant as an adult looking at a family dynamic and hearing a child whine at their parent. It's horrible. Don't let your child have a tantrum at you. I've actually seen an adult stamp her feet in front of her mum publicly. Oh, very cringy. What an embarrassment. So it's very simple in terms of, it's a simple idea, but it's actually quite difficult to implement. But that is really where you need to start. Start with, my child is going to honour and respect me, honour and respect their other parent. I'm assuming that it's a mum listening here. So honour and respect their dad. And by the way, that includes if you and your partner are no longer together. Even if your former partner has done something heinous, your child needs to learn to respect the concept of motherhood and fatherhood. And you might think, I've actually done some terrible things as a mother. Okay, who hasn't done terrible things? We've all done terrible things. Nevertheless, if you want the best, the very best for your child, this is where to start. Honour your mother and father. Okay, I hope that all made sense. Please come back for the next edition of the podcast or YouTube video. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.